It's 6 o'clock. We'll go ahead and get started. Thank you everyone for coming. I'd like to invite you to join me in the Pledge of Allegiance.
Allegiance to the flag in the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice.
So how's that sign up sheet looking? Oh, no, that's what it's here.
So Scott, I received public comments for the downtown plan. Do you want me to read them when we come to that agenda?
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, so while we're waiting on that, I guess we'll just get started. Does anybody have comments they would like to address city council? Yes, go ahead.
Yes, sir.
If you could introduce yourself and where you're from.
My name is Oliver Skinner. I'm from Stevenson, Washington. And I'm here because I want to talk about the situation down at the Port of Skamania, or Port of Stevenson.
Before you go further, who else is here to talk about Port of Skamania? Okay, all right, go ahead.
Yes, sir. Recently, I was attending the farmer's market, and my pregnant wife and 2-year-old child were using the restroom. There's only the one restroom there. There's 2 components to it. Someone was smoking methamphetamine in the one next to it, and the smoke was coming into the bathroom with my family. And this was what prompted me to take action and come try and talk to you guys and hopefully work on finding some kind of resolution. I talked to Pat with the port and speaking with him, it sounds like it's been an ongoing issue, that their hands are, tied, that they've done so many things to try and combat the situation and address it, but they're overwhelmed. And this isn't the only time I've had an issue with open drug use there, but this was the one that was, so egregious. It's on multiple occasions there've been people shooting up underneath the pier there. And I'm just here to, kind of bring the issue to the forefront and hopefully talk and find some kind of a resolution as far as addressing it. Again, I think that we as a community can better support the port and, and hopefully, give them more tools to solve the problem. I don't pretend like I have all the answers to this. I don't expect anybody here to, but I think together we can, address it in a manner that, hopefully we can do something.
Thank you.
Summer Shire, and I live in North Bonneville, but Mr. Skinner invited me to also speak regarding this issue. And I realize it's a jurisdictional issue. It is the Port of Skamania County, but it's within the city of Stevenson. And I've been responding as a deputy to this area for a multitude of problems regarding homelessness, drug use, needles being discarded, used needles being discarded in the bathrooms. The bathrooms seem to be somewhat of a hub and a problem. I reached out to Mr. Alvog maybe a year and a half ago regarding having timers and locking bathrooms so that it doesn't have maybe some draw in the middle of the night. And he was encouraged by that thought, but he said, he was somewhat hesitant to punish, good people or people that are law abiding for using the restrooms at a certain period of time, which I understand. But I too also have concerns about the increase of homeless camps being set up, the litter that's being left, the obvious open drug use, and the discarding of needles. It's really concerning. And law enforcement is somewhat tied in drug use nowadays. We can do drug referrals, but there's definitely something that needs to change. We obviously are dealing with the humanity issue here with people that are being homeless and not having resources, but you're also having people, as Oliver has stated, that are being affected by this open drug use and these issues.
Okay, so we actually have talked about this at the city level. You're right, it's a jurisdictional issue. we would love to entertain some way that we can help as a partner, but we don't have a lot of tools either. So there are a couple different issues here. The fact of the homeless issue and the drug use. Fortunately, that's nothing that we're going to be able to do right here tonight. We've heard the concerns of the residents about the situation down there. I've heard Pat talk about the situation down there, but there's a few tools. They have a few more tools than we do. So hopefully they'll find some ways to leverage contract. So some additional security. It might be something with their tenants. So I appreciate your concern, and it did get our attention. Fortunately, as a partner, there's not much that we have at our disposal to help, except to be partnered with, hopefully, with more than just a partner with empathy. So message received, but yeah, we'd be willing to entertain. But unfortunately, at this point, I'm not sure what we can do. But I appreciate you guys coming in.
And honestly, that's all I'm really looking for today, is just to bring attention to bring the issue to the forefront. And hopefully, we can not just, city, the port, and other people affected by this, we can all work together to hopefully find a resolution to it. So thank you so much.
Thank you for coming in.
Question?
Go for it.
Do you think that the increase in homelessness that's happening down at the port is because of last year, your increase in helping bring in homelessness through warming shelters and cooling shelters and the extra help?
I don't know that I'm prepared to make that direct point-to-point connection. There is you can't ask someone to move along off of a bench or off of an encampment if there's no place else for them to go. So that is something that, has been part of the environment, the climate for a while, but I'm not prepared to make a direct correlation with that, no.
And would you state your name for the record?
Oh, Hannah George.
Go ahead, Dave.
Summer, when you were talking with Pat, did you guys talk about security cameras or increased lighting or anything like that down there in the area?
No, we didn't. And they do have cameras. And we've utilized that in the past. There's been fire set in the bathrooms and increased vandalism. So we've worked in various ways that way. I don't know the lighting situation. I'm not familiar with that. So, but a lot of people are just recently, within the last week, they took down almost a permanent structure that they had built. And what they do is they secrete themselves going upriver by Waggle Beach and even up further river, but still port property. And they had built an entire encampment and with permanent structures. So a lot of it's off the beaten path. And they were bringing in lumber across the railroad tracks from 14 and built that structure. So some of it's very secreted.
So I can go ahead and make a comment about this only because I worked down there for the last 3 years. Just recently in the last month, I don't work down there anymore, but they do. I mean, there's cameras set up, facing all the different directions, and the public can actually watch those most times as long as they're up. You can actually see what's going on down there. But you're right, most of the activity is not going to be where anyone can see it, because we had at the business that we had people working 20 of the 24 hours a day. So we were down there all the time, and it was very rare that anyone came in contact with any of our people. And so down on that end of the port, down by the boat ramp down there wasn't that much activity overnight. It was all up in the woods farther, on either side. So it wasn't necessarily where you would think, oh, I'm going down to the port, it's gonna be right here. It wasn't in that area as much during the night. It was more, they were spread out, and then they would, people can go where they want after that. So, but I do appreciate you guys bringing it up. I mean, it was an issue, and we were trying to address it. We talked to Pat as well, and solutions are not easy.
No,
So
not.
it's a much more complex issue than just going, well, we just turn a light on. Well, there's, it's different than that. There's more going on.
So
So
there may be more to look at too, as far as setting hours down there for trespass issues, those kinds of things that give law enforcement a little bit more teeth down there. So those are all things that need to be talked about.
Well, and also there's what? 3 separate spots down there with restrooms to, the one closest to the farmer's market, the one closer to the dock, and then the one right next to the EDC. And
Yeah.
I think only one of those 6 separate things actually has a Sharps container in it. So that might be something to look into, is actually.
I believe they had one before and it kept getting ripped off.
Okay.
Absolutely.
The vandalism, I've been made aware that is quite an issue. The soap containers keep getting ripped off,
Mhm.
taken off. Soap containers, they get taken. People are breaking into them to steal the soap. Yeah, there's often clothes being left in the bathrooms, bags of clothes, where someone got a new pair of clothes, changed and just left them there. I know they're cleaning them once or twice a day, and sometimes you go in there an hour after they clean them, you wouldn't know. And they've had to put traps in the bathrooms and the toilet system to catch needles because people were flushing.
I wish these problems were unique to Stevenson, but they're not. They're
Yeah.
everywhere. Absolutely everywhere.
Anybody else have an item to bring before the council for something that's not already on the agenda? All right. There have been some minor changes to the agenda. Those are noted on your agenda. All right, ready to move on to the consent agenda. I would entertain a motion.
Motion to approve the consent agenda as presented.
Second.
The first and a second, any other discussion? All in favor, say aye.
I,
Any opposed? All right, we do have a guest in here with us tonight, so,
I do have something to say when I get turned.
you had something on here for Mr. Woods.
Ken Woods.
All right, go ahead.
Well,
Can you introduce yourself and where you're from?
Ken Woods, Wanda Road, Stevenson, Washington. Across the street, almost from the Catholic Church. I'm just above where they're putting in some new houses down below. Familiar with the area? Anyway, the property owner above us has a spring, a natural spring that comes out of the ground. And it always ran for 30, 40 years down on the road, down the hill as water does run downhill. And about a year and a half, 2 years ago, the county property, but I guess it's an easement regarding the PUD, and then they put in fill all along the road. And that diverted it all onto my property. And it's running downhill, of course. And we recently had to have the septic pumped, and he had to dig 6 feet of mud off the top so we could even get to the septic tank. So our only choice, and I'm thinking for maybe the city to divert some future problems, if we let it keeps going through our property, the people down below are gonna howl. You know that. So it's coming, so maybe the city could head off something, but the culvert there's the culvert, it's Winston Rawls property. But it's a natural spring that comes up out of the ground and it just runs downhill. Well, it always, for many, many years, it just ran down the hill and washed out part of the city's road. They had to come in and repair it. Well, now they've got it all diverted off on me. And we're gonna, our solution is, but I think the city could head off a problem by putting the culvert in off Winston Spring that's inundating me and head off the problem on my place as well as the future homeowners down below. So I just think it's kind of a danger, but our intent, what we're going to do is I'm going to have a trench put in and run it right back to the city, right out to the road again, which is going to increase the problems, not solve them. I think maybe the city could aid in solving the problem by just running a culvert across Monda Road, 6 or 7 feet, and there's a canyon there, just running it down the canyon, and that way everybody would be happy. That's about all I've got.
Very good. We will definitely take a peek.
Yeah, I was unaware of this problem. Were you aware?
She's
Yeah.
aware of it. She's been out to the house. She said water takes its natural course. Yeah, it does.
Water that hits the roadway. This is the spring coming out of the property. So Ken and I did discuss partnering with the neighbors, through maybe the city could provide the labor and the neighbor would provide the material, or something like that. So we have been in communication about.
Winston happens to be
Some
teaching
options.
some college courses up in the Seattle area, but I talked with him and he wanted to be here, but he only was able to come home on weekends. But it's his water. And it's pushing up on me.
Sounds like
Getting to be a nasty problem. you
sounds
know.
like you're making a reasonable request to me.
I'm just trying, and maybe we could all get together with Winston and the city and it runs through, from Winston's, it runs through a guy named Proctor's property and then onto mine and then washing out me and running on down the hill if they don't do something, these people with money down the hill, they're gonna be bitching too. So maybe we get all headed off by coming to some sort of a solution to the problem. That's my idea. That's all I've got to say.
Thank you.
Thank you for listening.
Of course,
Thank you.
so we have some new people. What were you here to speak on, or are you just here to? Yep. Good. Okay. Good place to start. Public hearing she chooses. Cool. Okay. Thank you. All right, Angie. You are.
I'm Angie Weiss. I'm the Executive Director of the Schenectady County Chamber of Commerce. I'm coming to give a quarterly report. You receive monthly reports from me, but I thought I'd give an overview and give you an opportunity to ask questions if you have any. So the last time I gave a report was in June. So this is what we've been up to since then. We've received 9 new chamber members and 4 new chamber champions, which is kind of an upgraded membership level at the chamber. We've added a new benefit of members being able to log onto our website and add their events to our event calendar. And we've recently added a membership orientation. So we'll do that quarterly and we'll hold like a workshop to teach members about their membership benefits and how to use those. We've also been working on government affairs. That's our top priority for this year. So we've recently seated our new government affairs council members, and we will be having our first government affairs meeting next week. We've planned our first candidates forum event, which will be on October 11th here in Stevenson at the Hagwald Center auditorium. And then we will also be having a government affairs luncheon in December. So we're really moving forward with government affairs. I'm pretty excited about that. The races that will be included at the candidates night will be county commissioner race, the PUD commissioner race, sheriff's race, and state representatives. As far as events go, we put on the Gorge Blues and Brews Festival in June, very successful. We thankfully had the help of an event planner, so that took a huge load off of us and we were grateful. We just last night had Canadian Lodge had asked us to partner with them on a golf event at their new putting course, and they wanted to kind of get some public awareness about their new putting course. So we did an event there last night. It was a lot of fun. We do our networking events monthly. Coffee. We don't provide breakfast for everybody. Don't start that rumor. We do a coffee event monthly, and then our happy hour event, which is the third Wednesday of the month. Next week, it will be at the Streetery in downtown Stevenson from 5 to 7. Everybody's welcome to attend. We've done 5 ribbon cuttings since I last saw you in June, so that's a total of 9 this year, which is really encouraging for me. Thankfully, Scott's been part of a lot of those, and I appreciate his help. Our next ribbon cutting is going to be next week, Thursday, at Traverse PNW Market here in Stevenson, 5 to 7. And we are currently working on Christmas in the Gorge. Yes, it's that time already. As far as tourism, we had our visitor center open 7 days a week from Memorial Day to Labor Day. So that season is ended. We're back to our normal 9 to 5, Monday through Friday. But we saw a lot of visitors on the weekends this season. We've created a new waterfall map, actually just finished it this week. It's featuring waterfalls in Skamania County, and we'll be adding that to the website. We'll be doing print maps of that. Waterfalls are very popular, so we're pretty excited about that piece. Our monthly travel blog that we do, it's all going to be about waterfalls this month. So we're going to do a blog about waterfalls. Our social media contest will be a waterfall photo contest. And our tourism newsletter will be about waterfalls and featuring our contest and our blog and our new waterfall map and all of that. So yeah, we were also working on soliciting a influencer to come out and write about waterfalls. Unfortunately, she had a death in the family, so we'll have to put that off. But we've been working on soliciting influencers to come out. We have one scheduled in October to do a wine tour. We're working with Skamania Lodge on doing golf and distillery tours. So it's been a good partnership with them, collaborating on getting influencers out here. We also recently got some new photos taken. The photographer is going to continue to take photos this fall and do some aerial shots as well. So we'll have new photos for the website, for our print ads, for newsletters, for Judy's upcoming guide that she'll print in December. And last but not least, webcams. I'm super excited to let you know that the city cam that it was on the courthouse roof, we've replaced it. It's operational. It's live on visit stevensonwa.com, and it took a long time, but it's back. And we have a new webcam that is down on the port property on LDB building, facing the boat launch. Fishermen like to use that, and we're hoping that possibly it will be a deterrent for some of the activities that we were talking about earlier today. And then the weather station has been purchased and should be up any day. So that's all I have for you. Questions?
Thank you.
Thank you. It's a great report.
You're welcome to stay. All right, next up, we have a public hearing for the commercial wastewater moratorium. I would like to open the public hearing at 6:20. First up is staff report.
So we're building the wastewater treatment plant, but it's not yet done. And so this is just a 1-year extension until to give time for the construction to be completed. We can lift it at any time prior to that 1 year if the schedule allows. I don't know if you read the wastewater update, but it may not allow. We'll see how it all pans out. And there's a resolution with the findings of fact that you have to adopt before you adopt the ordinance. The 2-step process.
The estimated completion for the improvements is August next year. Is that what was in there? Not
That's what
lighting.
we're currently contracted for.
Okay,
How's that?
That's-
fair enough.
So question, if I was reading this right, somewhere in here, it talks about a business. They can't have commercial volume, but they can still have residential volume.
Right, so if a new business wants to come in, then they would need to pre-treat down to residential strength. It's
Right.
not, and so if it were an office building can come in, that's no problem.
Sure.
But a beverage producer would need to pre-treat down to residential strength before we would allow them to connect.
This is the part where we solicit comments from the audience. Does anybody have any comments for city council? Yes.
Only in regards to what she was talking about or in general?
For this public, for the moratorium on wastewater addition. So yeah, no, I'll announce the other parts as we go. Anybody? All right, I'll close public hearing at 6:27, actually 6:28. Any discussion from council?
Boilerplate, if you ask me, for now.
For now.
Hopefully this will be the last time we ever do this. Fingers crossed.
We're working on it.
That's the plan.
Okay, well, motion to approve resolution 2022-397, adopting the findings of fact related to the moratorium extension on commercial conditions.
First and second, any other discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Sounds unanimous. All right, which brings us on to the ordinance.
So motion to approve ordinance 2022-1186, extending the wastewater moratorium on commercial connections with discharge above residential street.
Second.
Both seconds.
All right, any other discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All right. All right, next up is a public hearing for the boundary line adjustment moratorium. I would like to open up the public hearing at 6:29. And Leon, I believe you have the staff report.
Yeah, so this, again, is a findings of fact related to the emergency ordinance that was adopted at the last council meeting. And so in order for that ordinance to be in effect, we are required to also adopt the resolution. for the planning. So are there any questions with regards to, well,
All right, comments from the public. Anybody like have anything to say on the moratorium? All right, close the public hearing at 6:30. Any other discussion, questions, thoughts? We'll see.
We
Plenty
talked
ahead of
so
us.
much last time.
I also want to note, I don't know if anyone's read the council packet since 1 o'clock this afternoon. But there's been a slight update to the ordinance as well. And so if you adopt the ordinance, it will then, in essence, lift the moratorium once that ordinance is adopted. So they're independent, but still connected. Yeah.
It was involved. Yeah.
I'm ready for a motion.
All right, well, how about this? I'd like the motion to approve resolution 2022-398, adopting the findings of fact related to the moratorium on boundary line adjustments, period.
Go ahead, David.
Second.
So first and a second, any further discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
So no ordinance yet on this
The
one?
ordinance was adopted at the last meeting.
Gotcha. So this is
When it's an
funded by-
emergency, it can be flipped, but if it's an extension, it can't.
All right, moving right along. We'll open up the next public hearing at 6:32. The second reading of ordinance 2022-1183, Liana.
Wait, let's see. So this ordinance was last presented at the last council meeting regarding a cleanup of some of the codes that's been in the works for a while, as well as additional clarification on the code for boundary line adjustments. What it does is it, in essence, allows the city codes and standards to apply to boundary line adjustments as well. Did I miss anything?
Requires monumentation of new lines where currently, if you establish a lot line through a short plat or a subdivision, a stake goes in the ground, and you can say, that's my property, that's somebody else's property. I'm
Like a
selling
wooden
you this
stake.
property and only that property. We didn't have that as a explicit requirement of boundary line adjustments. Many surveyors did. Some surveyors would not do that. And so this is just stating that as an expectation. We are requiring surveys in all cases except for lot line eliminations. So if somebody has two adjacent lots and they want to eliminate the line between without adjusting the exterior boundaries, you don't have to do a survey for that. But you would have to do a survey for all other ones. There's one case where you wouldn't have to do a survey now, and that's where the boundary line adjustment is parallel to a line that can be found in stake in the field. So you kind of have to have a surveyor to get those stakes found and verified. So that's hope that many applicants have, that they won't have to do a survey, is dashed right away. So just isn't opening the door for that hope.
And then, I mean, that's just for accuracy in everything, right? I mean, the whole idea is just to make it so that it's more plain and more reliable and not just kind of, yeah, that's mine over there, kind of that space.
No, if you want to put a fence up. I mean,
Right.
all,
Or a
yeah.
shed on
or
the
shed
back,
on-
yeah,
right,
whatever.
yeah.
So I think you're aware of the boundary line problems between my property, Brian Adams, and the Milllands. And do you know if that same issue exists elsewhere in town? Yes. Well, to sum it up, we've had it surveyed a few times. If you measure from that datum, you'll get property lines here. If you measure from that datum, you get property lines a few feet over. And so we're not sure where the real property line is, and a mistake was made 150 years ago. Right? So, who knows?
Yeah, somebody, they didn't follow the rules we're putting in place now. That's the problem.
Thank goodness we're all friendly neighbors and we all really don't care.
Focus.
Okay.
You're
Center.
Go.
But the goal is that if we require monumentation, that it will be clear and set. And so it does make the property owners or the applicant, it has it's additional work on their end and additional cost for the process, and potentially additional time. Nowadays, surveyors are pretty busy. That may free up as time goes on. So those are some of the potential impacts.
For the staff report. All right, is anybody here to speak to this matter? All right, I'd like to keep your comments to 3 minutes, and this is for comments, not for discovery. You can keep those set. Go ahead.
I'm Rick May, about 200 feet up the road here, on just off of Kanaka Creek Road. You know, the proposed coding change actually has some extremely good ideas. There's quite a few of the ideas that really make really good sense. But of course, I'm going to be speaking to what doesn't make sense. I'm going to be speaking to the legality and what is in the public interest and what is not. So I'd like to cut through some of the noise and give you a glimpse of what I believe is going on. So I'd also like to discuss the taking away of property rights proposed by the code change. The boundary line adjustment code change will allow planning to deny a lot line adjustment if it involves more than 2 lots or if planning simply thinks the adjustment is trying to get around subdivision procedures. Before you take away property rights, one question should be asked. Do you actually have a problem? I'm aware of no recent boundary line adjustment that has harmed the public. If no harm has been done, then why is planning trying to change the code? Let me give you an example that may answer that question. Let's say Joe has 3 existing lots that don't function very well. Maybe they have a configuration that does not work, they are too small, or access is limited, or whatever the reason. Joe wants to take his lots that do not function very well and adjust the property lines so they do. To develop these lots, Joe will still have to meet all of the Stevenson engineering codes and municipal code standards in regards to right-of-way permits, sewer hookups, roads, utilities, access, site distance reports, and environmental studies. Remember, these lots already exist, so they had to go through some sort of subdivision process to be created in the first place. Currently, the code allows Joe to adjust his existing property lines relatively easy through the boundary line adjustment process. If the code passes, planning can require Joe to go through the short plat process for his 3 lots, or if over 4 lots, the subdivision process. In other words, planning can require lots already approved through the subdivision process to have to do it again. Why does planning want to change? It wants to control the process. What is meant by control the process? Planning wants Joe to do things to adjust his lot lines planning can't make Joe do now. Examples would be build a public road, close off an access point, build a sewer line. So here's Joe, who simply wants to adjust lot lines so his existing lots work better. Instead of an easy process, with this code change, it becomes a time-consuming and expensive nightmare. What will likely happen is Joe will simply give up working with planning. Again, all Joe is doing is adjusting lot lines on lots that already have been created. Is it in the best interest of the public or even legal to take property rights and control of Joe's land away from him so planning can make more requirements when only lot lines are being adjusted? Common sense, expert legal opinion already supplied to the city, and numerous Supreme Court rulings clearly states the answer is no. The proposed code change is not legal. In conclusion, the proposed boundary line adjustment change is illegal. It will be thrown out of court. It will cost thousands of
I
dollars.
apologize. Hang on a second. Let me fight this thing. There we go. Sorry. Go ahead.
No, you start the last paragraph. Is it in the best interest of the public or even legal to take property rights and control of Joe's land away from him so planning can make more requirements and only lot lines have been removed? Common sense, expert legal opinion already supplied to the city, and numerous Supreme Court rulings state the answer is no. The proposed code change is not legal. In conclusion, the proposed boundary line adjustment change is illegal. It will be thrown out of court. It will cost thousands of dollars of public dollars in attorney fees. It is really a blatant taking of property rights and informs the public. Thank you.
Anyone else? Any other comments?
We kind of have a similar problem. Zachary lived about the boundary lines. We have people building houses on our drainage field. Our property line, I was even given from her saying it was adjusted and this has all been measured. But the measurements ain't right because they got rid of part of our property now. And I don't think that's right. The little code changes and all this baloney is kind of baloney. They stole property from us. How's that right?
I don't know that that has anything,
And what's gonna do? Cost us thousands to get it readjusted?
I don't know anything about your situation.
They actually went back and like it's been brought up before, they're measuring tactics back 40, 50, 60, 70 years ago are different. And one's claiming this is, and one's claiming that is, and It's just kind of a mess, but I don't know that the problem can be solved because they didn't keep accurate records back in the 60s and 70s. That's all we're facing.
Thank you. Any other comments? Okay, I'd like to close the public hearing at 6:41. Council?
I wasn't here for the last discussion on this, so I don't know what was already said.
A lot.
Leona, was there a letter from Bernard?
Not on this, no. Not for public comment that I'm aware of. So a SEPA was published, and so that's where you get the Department of Fish and Wildlife changes in there. And then this is a second hearing, and then you also see that there's a recommendation from the Planning Commission in there as well, as referred to them, and they've discussed it as well.
I see that there were some changes in verbiage and things since last time.
Yeah, there was some clarification. I think we pulled another definition for building site from another city that, and that one was vetted through a court process.
So the points that Rick May was bringing up, many times you were saying planning could do these things. My understanding of what you're saying there is that they're not compelled to, but they would have the ability to. Is that?
I really don't know because the code is so vague, it doesn't say. So if you try to move more than 2 lots, there doesn't seem to be a process at all to do it without going through the short plat or the subdivision process, because there's no other road that I can see in this code that is clarified. That's one of the reasons why it's so difficult and why it will be thrown out of court. Is, for one thing, you can't have something that's an opinion. And really this idea that, okay, well, you're trying to not use this, you're trying to get around the subdivision. The courts, all the time, they'll throw that out because it has to be something that is not an opinion. It has to be something of fact. So you just have, what you do is that if you're going to write this code, write it so that it's solid, write it so that it works, write it so you have ways of getting around things like that. So you don't, so somebody that's done a subdivision doesn't have to do it again. And you don't have any really ways of going around it. So I'm not saying you don't have some good ideas here. I'm just saying that if I took this to court, the chances are I would win. And I really think that there's a lot of good ideas here, but let's slow down and write it right. You've got a moratorium. You don't have to be in a hurry. Look at the legalities. I spent thousands of dollars to have an attorney that's a land use attorney send you information on where you have problems.
Are you answering the question or are you
Yeah,
continuing with your comment?
my question was about the, are they compelled? Is planning compelled
You can't
to
tell from the
require
code.
these things, or is it within their power to do so if they see it as the best course of action?
I think you need to
That's
ask
a Ben
That's a
question,
Ben question.
right?
Yeah, there's 2 statements in there. One is in the definition of boundary line adjustment. It says that it's generally between 2 lots. And there's a second policy statement in there saying that boundary line adjustments shouldn't be used to circumvent the subdivision process, as evidenced by things like a great number of lots where boundaries are being moved at one time, or several within a short period. And so when we're looking at the boundary line adjustment process as it is now, and the problems that we've seen with it, the boundary line adjustment process allows for administrative decisions to be made that have big neighborhood impacts without neighbor notice. And so something like a short plat or subdivision is a neighborhood impact, and notices go out to all adjacent owners. When we evaluated how to address this problem. It was one where we either now require neighborhood notice for all boundary line adjustments, where it may be something that's easy, where there's a boundary dispute about where the septic is, and they come to an agreement and say, we'll just move this line over 4 feet, and we're no longer dealing with this dispute. That doesn't need to go across the street. That doesn't need to go to people on the other side. That can stay between those neighbors. And so that's the drafted intent here, is that the boundary line adjustment is covering those issues. It's not creating new neighborhoods, new as in something that wasn't there before. And the neighbors didn't really know about it. And so there are generalities. It's not compelled to make a decision.
The other thing I want to also clarify is that there's a lot of lots that were original plats of the city that still exist. And they can be built on at any time, and they don't conform to any city standards. And so the challenge with that is they're put on a grid pattern without much infrastructure initially required for that initial grid pattern. And so what you would have to deal with then is lots being developed without the infrastructure requirements, which again is known at the time a person purchases the lot. And so again, when you move those lines, or again, trying to use it as completely different, not just a simple movement of the lines, but changing actual locations within a larger parcel, it becomes more of a challenge. And that's where the neighbors and the neighborhood, because it would change the character of it at times, would care for this. And so allowing tools for us to
Question? Anybody? Comment?
So, Rick, that last section that Ben was talking about, the boundary line adjustments not being used to circumvent zoning regulations, et cetera, is that one of the spots that you were thinking of, that it's too vague, it needs to be?
Again, the Supreme Court, the Washington Supreme Court has ruled a number of times that you can't have an opinion. That you can't be subject, you can't have, basically that a code has to be able to be understood, fully understood by the average person. That's almost a quote out of the Supreme Court case. And what it boils down to is that when you have this vagary, where it's like, if it appears that it's trying to get around the subject matter, that's a vagary. When that goes in front of the Supreme Court, they'll throw it out, or whatever court looks at it that has that sort of familiarity, just want to throw it out. So, what it boils down to is that, this was my forte. For 30-some years, I worked with attorneys on land use issues and valuation. I just saw this stuff. I saw it over and over again. And it's not that it's not a good idea, Ben. I think it is a good idea. I know it's not about you, but I'm saying that I think it's a good idea. I think that some more control on boundary line adjustments is okay. It's okay. I don't plan to do any more boundary line adjustments. Your home is sitting on one of those boundary line adjustments that was more than 2 lots. So you can see that there is some advantages of it. So it's how to balance it. How to balance it so that the neighborhoods do have their input. And the other thing is that, gee guys, you guys hire outside attorneys and they're $500 an hour. It costs a lot of money.
You had your time.
Anybody else?
So we have a moratorium in place right now.
We do.
If you would like to table this to talk more about it, I would like some staff direction on what specific places you would like us to look at. This has gone through attorneys on our end as well. So, and this is the result.
It went through attorneys and then it went through the planning commission, correct? Okay. And this is what we came to.
And Ziba.
Right, I mean, so.
I think if our city attorney has, attorneys disagree all the time. No doubt about it. But, you know, I will rely on our attorney's legal opinion on this. That's what he's for.
Ask them.
Ken, can you weigh in on this?
Yeah, hi, everybody. You know, Rick raised some points for a specific legal opinion about these issues. And, you know, I think it might be beneficial to have points that Leanne Bremmer's raised to determine whether we might be vulnerable on this thing. I'm not saying we will or are, but you know, I think it is important that we lose any kind of a subjective element to this. Make it as if we need to modify that one section to lose any risk of a subjective interpretation, might be wise. You know, I'm not saying that this is not legally supportable the way it sits, but again, I guess I wasn't asked for a formal legal opinion on it. It has been prepared and draft, and I think that everybody has had a chance to review it. It's just I'm not, you know, again, I'm not going to say one way or the other, quite honestly, in an open public meeting. If you want to talk about it more in executive session, I'd be happy to. But at this point, it's really up to the council whether you want to move forward or give us a chance with a moratorium in place to do a little deeper dive into some of the legal issues. Up to you.
So I think I'm in favor of holding off on this, tabling it for at least another session and trying to tighten up the language that Rick brought to our attention with Kim's help. Anyone else have an opinion on that?
Would that require a workshop with Ken? How would that work? Ben?
No, I think if you guys, if you put this off for a meeting, I imagine the mayor will have me look at it, and if I want to maybe have another land use expert have a quick look at it, that would give us time to do that. You know, and if there's language that could be tightened up, that would be the time to do it. I don't think there'd be any need to necessarily workshop the council. We just come forward with the ordinance either in its current form or with any tweaks that we'd suggest for the next meeting. You know, I don't, you know, it's up to you guys if you want to workshop it, but it doesn't seem like that would be necessary.
Ben, what's the downside to waiting?
Since the moratorium was adopted, I've received calls from people saying, hey, I just got this court case settled out. And one of the results is that we need to do an underlying adjustment. What's the timeline?
Okay.
I've also received some preliminary inquiries on doing DLAs and wondering
What they have to go through? Yeah.
So I don't think that any of them are surveyed in hand and ready to submit, but I don't know that either. One clarification to the legal counsel that we had review this was contract legal counsel from through our insurance company. And so that
Had legal counsel already go
Yeah.
go through this and kind of vet this out some. I thought that was part of it. Okay.
yeah, so it wasn't.
Oh, so let me just ask you.
Ken Harper reviewed it, yeah.
Yeah, okay. Then in that case, then I wouldn't be the guy to ask, quite honestly. if it's gone through Ken Harper
Yeah.
and he's comfortable with it, then I don't think there would be a reason to bring it back to me, because I would be sending it to Ken Harper anyway, quite honestly. So that sounds like it. And I guess I wasn't in the loop there. Apologize. Sorry.
That was
Sorry,
part of the
Ken, yeah.
discussion last month was what we wanted to do and make sure we vetted it through him and we did.
It's confusing. There are two Kens, I know.
No, I know, but
Yeah,
I mean,
yeah.
we talked about, that was part of that. We had quite a talk last month about a good portion of the meetings about that, so.
Okay, so what do we want to do?
Actually, did you have something, because we're already through the public comment period.
Yeah, Rick Jessel, Jordan Road. Could I ask you guys to speak up? My hearing isn't that great.
Mhm.
Ben speaks very softly as Davenport does. I'm missing part of this. And maybe you're not used to having an audience. You know, I've been to a lot of meetings like that, but if you could speak up, I'd really appreciate it.
Sure
Thank
thing.
you.
I mean, for me, I feel like we vetted what we need to. They made the changes and it went back through the whole process again since we looked at this. So
the journey is.
you know what I mean? For that's, I know you, Paul, you weren't at the last, but I'm not saying there's not a problem with that. I'm just saying staff did what we asked them to do to get this ready for us this time. And we went back to the planning commission and we sent it to the attorneys. We did all of those things and now that's where we are today. So
Yeah.
And a motion.
okay. I'd like the motion to approve ordinance 2022-1183, amending the Stevenson Municipal Code Title 16 subdivisions, streamlining provisions common to all proposals, amending the approval criteria, submittal requirements, and administration of boundary line adjustment proposals, repealing ordinance 750 and 2022-1185 in their entirety, and repealing the portions of ordinance 670, 884, 916, and 1004. Period.
Second.
Okay, first and a second, any other discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
Aye.
You guys both opposed?
No,
Oh, you're in?
I'm in.
You're in, okay, so that's unanimous. All right, so capital improvement program comprehensive plan update. So Ben, you're just giving us a update on this one?
I was gonna start. So in your council packet, there's a couple of items that, again, were added yesterday.
You need to see it?
Right, no, I think I got it. So for a while, we've been talking about the well-duh plan, which is basically, of course, you want to do the infrastructure improvements before you do the street, so you're not tearing up the street multiple times. And so that is where the capital improvement program comes into play. And if you, one of the documents was how we, in essence, created that capital improvement program. And it's a combination of throwing all the plans together, putting them on top of each other, and then figuring out timelines. The timelines came from the engineers and consultants that have been worked on those various plans. And then we kind of massaged, some of them were just developer driven. So if a developer comes in, you want to do this one before anything else, or priority shift. So this is just the initial version. Again, in the ordinance, it states that this will be reviewed annually in conjunction with the TIP. It's a living document, and we plan on having it change and morph again as things come up or are modified. And one thing that we also were talking about earlier today, since COVID, it is more evidence that we need to have more long-term planning because of the supply chain. And so where a project used to take, plan 1 year, build the next, it's a lot longer than that. And so that's where this plan comes into play. That being said, you have to change the ordinance first to allow for the plan. There's also a benefit to having the plan above just the city being able to plan. When there are subdivisions coming through, if there's a plan for improvements in an area where that subdivision is happening, then we can require them to either cost share or do some of those improvements. So if it's not on the plan, we don't necessarily have that tool, but again, it helps us move those projects forward. So that's why we're doing it. There's a little bit more details into how we get that done, and I'll let them go into that.
So we struggled with how to present this requested amendment to the comprehensive plan, both to the planning commission and now to you all, because it is sort of a well done, you should be doing this, why are you even asking us? And so we've tried to answer that question a little bit better with the rollout here, where you guys probably got in the mail flyer saying that we've got all these capital improvement needs. There might be more, and we hope you tell us about more. This is when we think we're going to do those, and we hope you tell us that that's either the correct timeline or tell us that it should be a different sort of timeline. So we put that out there to go along and show you what generally this comprehensive plan amendment is. And so you have a recommendation from the Planning Commission to amend the comprehensive plan. The amendment application was submitted by staff before COVID. Early on in her tenure here, Liana said, you know what, I've been handed something that it would have been better that I was handed something else. So she wants to enshrine these capital improvement planning processes so that no other city administrators put through what she's been put through. So characterizing things a little bit here for how we got to what we got to in the comprehensive plan and also in the capital improvement plan. So Planning Commission took a look at the application that the city staff submitted. They went through a lot. They did consensus exercises with dots on the board, green light, red light exercise to say, yeah, we agree with that. We might agree with that, but there's a conflict with this over here, and let's figure out which of them change. So they put a fine-tooth comb through this and came out with all the changes that are recommended at that conference.
Excuse me, but we have a prior appointment at 7. So thank you for your attention.
Ken, thanks for coming in. Zach, thank you.
For listening to me.
And so what the plan largely does is says that go forth and build your city this way. And then it also says to get public inputs and expertise as you build that city. So we are really excited about the capital improvement program part of this, because it gets to take all that advice of build it this way and take all the projects that are identified in other plans and put them together. And then when we annually get that public feedback on should those be the projects that are done and should they be done in a different order. So we're excited to present this one together. Both of these aspects.
And I think that's an important point, Ben, is that it's an annual review. It's nothing set in stone. We can make changes to it as we move along. And I think that's a real critical point about this plan.
So when I was being brought up to speed, the capital improvement plan, it was the no doubt. Why wouldn't you overlay all of the various plans? So if one plan says pave the road and another plan says in the next year, go ahead and put a new water line in. So of course you would stack all those plans and adjust as necessary so that There wouldn't be tearing up nice roads, or maybe while you were doing work on something else, you could check a box on another plan. So for me, that was the base level, and that was kind of my blinders. But then the more we talked about it, it did become this living document. It paints a picture of what the city is doing. So you have to have some sort of direction so that you know when to apply for grants, how to start getting your budgets in order. You have to have a plan. And then, but so not only just the don't pave the road and dig it up again, but which direction are we going to develop? Which direction are we going to start encouraging development? And if someone says, well, I would be interested in putting a development over here, how come you're not going that direction? Didn't know that. Didn't know you wanted to do that. Let's talk about that. So having it as a dynamic plan. So there's quite a few moving pieces that make this such a critical document. So all the plans that have stacked up to this are important on their own right, but this is the one that ties them all together for all of those reasons.
New and improvements. Sometimes some things that really need the improvement, or that we need to redo this section of road over here because whatever's failing now. And then these guys are going to be putting this new line in, they're putting a new house and adding those together, just laying it all is huge.
Oh, that part. Yeah, let's go ahead and open the public hearing at 7:07. So I guess that concludes the staff report. Did you have more, Ben? Or
I'm available for questions.
okay, I would entertain some comments from the public. Joe, you said you had some thoughts.
Sure. My name is Joe Robertson. I've been a county resident since '86 and bought property downtown in 1996. And I've had two businesses in town and lived downtown still to this day since '96. And so I'm really aware of the traffic issues and issues that affect small business, especially. Up until I got this in the mail, I've always had kind of the same kind of feelings about roundabouts that other people have had, your kind of feelings about those. But all of a sudden, I saw that and realized that that these roundabouts on the last page and the development for the downtown large projects, I would like to see something like this happen first, only because it will impact the traffic to the point where people will not speed by where I live, and every single day, 24/7. I live right by Sam's Auto Body there, and so I'm real aware of people start at A&J's, hit the gas, and but then they're going 40, 50 by the time they get. Anyway, same thing on Rock Creek Drive. But I'm also thinking about the impact with this particular section of the projects of the small business here, and how everybody would benefit with more on the front page instead of the last project that's it's scheduled for. Anyway, thank you for letting me say something about what you're doing here. I want to give kudos to whoever behind this, because it's a lot of work that went into this, and it really looks good. There's only one problem that I think a lot of people have had with it, and that is the legend is so small I couldn't find a magnifying glass to try to figure out what the maps were. Anyway, I have a lot more little details to mention, but I will put those in writing and submit those as you described here.
Great. So this is public hearing for comment. All right. But then as far as a forum to suggest changes is this at the time, or is there?
Yeah,
just a
so
minimum?
again, as we talked about, there's kind of there's going to be the ordinance that will allow for the CIP to be a tool to use. And then there's the adoption of the CIP. So right now, we're talking about just kind of the ordinance in general, but we'll take feedback on the CIP as a whole. That document hasn't been drafted really, but it will look kind of like the TIP, and it will be adopted by resolution. And in the future, the TIP will also be adopted by resolution. And so at the next meeting, we can have both the CIP ordinance as well as the resolution ready to go. And it will be similar to what's in the packet as far as that Excel spreadsheet, roughly. So again, in the flyer, there is comments to be solicited for that.
And a way to, in a way to submit. that.
Right, right.
So this
As
isn't the
well,
only one.
yes. And then and then in June of next year, same thing. So in another 6 months, in essence, we'll be talking about the same thing. And so there's lots of time for comments. So
Yeah, I think to your point that if that document you're looking at is not necessarily an order of events. You know, it's just kind of a big master plan of what we would like to do. And we want to do as many things congruently as we can, that where it makes sense. So it's not the roundabouts are the very last thing we're going to consider. It's just where it comes.
There's a hint of a timeline.
there's a hint of a timeline.
Yeah, there are.
Yeah. The 20 to 40 years-ish is what the transportation study says. But once we get our final transportation study, we are going to be submitting that to WashDOT and working with them because it is the state highway.
I do understand that being in construction as long as I have been, that you have to think things like what the groundwork
Yeah.
and you don't,
Mhm. Yeah.
You got to do things in order.
Glad you like it.
Yes.
Glad you like the
It
flyer.
It was a team effort, that's
No, I
for
was
sure.
looking at your comprehensive plan prior, and so I realized how much time goes into trying to get something together.
Nice if you can read them.
Yeah, you never know, right? Yeah. Try to do pictures.
Any other comments?
Yeah, I'd agree. It was very well done. It's very easy to read, so yeah, thank you, because it just brought everything right there. I don't know what the time frame is. I was trying to figure out, the 10-year plan, a 5-year plan. That would be my only critique, if I really couldn't tell.
It needed to be more pages to get all the pictures and all the words in, but yeah.
But as far
So,
as
yeah.
visuals, being able to go, oh, yeah, they're gonna do this, oh, they're gonna, it was great. Thank you. I hope I live long enough.
Next, go ahead.
Rick Jessel, Jordan Road, Stevenson. I've been here since '74. I'd encourage you to think about making the taxpayers that have been here a long time a priority, as opposed to annexing or expanding the city at this time. I know there isn't much room for expansion. It seems that certainly a lot of us have been around and paid taxes for years. Interested in all of these projects, and the budget is fairly small for such an ambitious plan. It's going to take years and years. You're going to have to budget it carefully. So I just have that comment. Take care of the people who've been here paying taxes and supporting the city for a long time. That's it. Thank you.
Any other comments on the capital improvement plan or the comprehensive plan? You guys want
Honestly, we don't know enough of the information to, complain and look like idiots, right? We just know we lived in Camas and Washougal, and we hate the roundabout because people don't know how to read a yield sign as opposed to a stop sign, and then you just sit there for an eon. When you could have just kept going and somebody could have waited. It's 25 miles an hour to pull out from A&J to go around the corner, as opposed to now you got a semi that comes through here for whatever reason that's just taking its sweet time, or somebody who stops at the yield sign because somebody's, on the opposite side of it. So I'm sure I'm totally speaking out of turn to whatever y'all are talking about. We're just not fans. We hate Camas Washougal's roundabouts, and they're just not happy. I don't know.
Thank you. Oh, did we get your name?
No, Rachel.
Rachel?
Shane.
What's your last name?
Larry.
I'm right here in Stevenson. Thank you. Welcome.
Local Washingtonian, not California.
Could live with it. I'm one to talk.
I got, I was contacted about the submittal that went out by two people that didn't want to make comment, but one wanted us to prioritize a sewer line up Ryan Allen Road sooner than later, and one wanted it to extend up Frank John's Jordan Road sooner than later. So encourage them to make those comments because those are what you need to hear, just like oppositions were roundabouts. So it's absolutely not out of thing to say opposition. But those didn't make it to you. Ryan Allen went side. I'm sorry, Frank John. That's confusing.
Any more comments?
I didn't realize we could put on something like that. You know, I didn't know that sewer was going to go down Del Rey, which I think is a great idea. My only comment would be is that we've got some problems with sloping issues. You go up and then you go down. We got an engineer take a look at that, and that was the problem. You only could go a certain distance, and then you have a drop problem. But you know, I think it would be great to bring that down too.
Anyone else? All right, close the public hearing at 7:17. Any other comments, council? So this is just an update. This is what's going on.
It's a first reading of the ordinance and an update on. Because yeah, like I said, the comp plan amendment will need to be approved by ordinance.
So process wise, to amend the comprehensive plan, the planning commission needs to hold a public hearing, make a recommendation to the city council. City council needs to hold a public hearing within 60 days of the planning commission's recommendation, which we covered those now. We'll continue to do outreach and accept comments on any of those leading into the next meeting and present to you those comments or any amendments that might be suggested coming out of that.
Perfect. Thank you, everyone. All right, situation update. Who's going to start us off on the wastewater system upgrades?
Oh, yeah,
Oh, let's say it says staff.
yeah.
Oh, sorry.
I was curious too.
It's just so I can just like easily replicate.
I didn't want to shout.
Right, yeah.
It's kind of nice to have a meeting with it. Not all the things are my things.
Right,
so,
yeah.
the Public works things. Yeah, so kind of as it says, we've got construction going, the Rock Creek, the collection systems, construction project going on at Rock Creek is wrapping up quickly. They probably will be a little bit beyond their contractual fixed completion date or substantial completion date of end of September. They'll probably be middle of October, but they've got paving scheduled before it gets wet. And so we're feeling good about that project.
That'll Rock Creek Drive.
It's that whole kind of mess. So paving that before the winter would be important. I've heard it described as a bit of a goat trail currently. The wastewater treatment plant, they kind of, one of the biggest items that they were wanting to get done before it got rainy was to excavate for the largest structure, which is the anoxic basin. They are struggling a little bit with dewatering, but we've had good meetings earlier this week, and it seems like there are some plans in place to be able to dewater low enough so that they can pour the bottom of the slab for the big basin. So that is moving ahead. We're receiving equipment. As this mentions, we did have one piece of equipment that was delayed. We were able to identify additional vendors, so that will be moving forward. That shouldn't impact schedule. The contractor did submit a schedule that had completion in the spring of 24 rather than the fall of 23. So that's something that we're working with the contractor on to figure out how to bring the timeline back into something that will put us in 2023 again. I say 2013.
Try to.
Tried to, yeah. Right. Was that?
We wish.
We wish, yeah. So we're planning for the 3 other pump stations that are in the works, Kanaka Fairgrounds and Cascade. Meeting with the PUD to discuss power needs a couple weeks ago. I'm sure everyone's heard transformers are years out, so that is something that the city will do our best to mitigate by trying to get that purchased on the early side. But one of those projects may, push out an extra year. Leon is working with their funding source for those projects to make sure that's not going to be a deal breaker. And since everyone always wants to ask about the fish, we added more koi to the clarifier, and the original fish have probably tripled in size since so they are. I don't know if they're totally doing their job, but they are getting bigger.
Have you heard of the fish? Do you know what we're
This is
talking
the
about?
first time I've heard of
Oh.
the fish.
I was gonna ask you about it, so I'm glad you brought it up.
Actually, yeah, right.
Yeah, our new wastewater treatment plant operator is very passionate about new technology and thinking outside the box. And in the spring, he read or communicated with some other wastewater treatment plants about innovative ways to keep the clarifiers clean. So they're kind of like the last stop for wastewater effluent before it goes through UV for disinfection and then gets discharged. So they're just big tanks, and so you can imagine there's no cover on them, so they can get a little green at times. And one of the ways that have been proposed is to put fish in the tank to take care of the algae. So we're experimenting with koi, and they're staying alive.
Not growing
the
any
orange ones
extra
are
eyes or
happy.
anything.
And it,
Right.
I'll call it a tradition, but it is because that is one of the things that we're responsible for. I encourage you to schedule the time with either Carolyn or Devin to get a tour, so that you can understand these different terms that she's talking about. Because it's like I say, it's one of the biggest things that we have going on. And the water plant is, it smells a lot better. Not a lot to see there though, but it's still also a really cool tour to take as well. So I encourage you to schedule. Now make sure no more than 2 of you at a time.
Right, never.
Never.
And I can't go with David and he can't go again.
Anything else?
No, that's kind of the long and the short on wastewater stuff.
Can I pull you into a deep dive on scheduling?
Mm.
And so it's a 2-step process where the engineers estimate a schedule, the contractors say, yeah, we can do that.
I'd like to remind everyone of the request to speak up.
Yeah, sorry. We're talking about getting behind on schedules for these public works contracts. And just thought it's effective to go through a little training on how schedules are made and then broken.
Yeah, no, it's a great question, because it does always seem like schedules are slipping, right? Like how, and it's probably really frustrating without having an understanding of construction, and especially in areas like ours where you have to dig for any of your utilities, so you don't always know what's underneath the ground. But long and short of schedules are, as part of the design process, the design engineers will come up with a schedule. So they'll set a date, like a substantial completion date. You can also have bidding processes where the contractor will set the date, or they'll get better money, or there's incentives for them to complete early. But then they will come in and they'll develop a schedule. They'll show you the schedule that shows them meeting that date. Once they get into production, sometimes that date will change. And so monthly, they're required to submit a revised schedule, in addition to weekly, like 3-week look aheads. So we can kind of see it coming. It's not a surprise typically not a surprise when a schedule gets bumped. But I don't know if that was all you're hoping to get out of that. kind of
But the
high
part that
level.
comes back to you guys is the change orders. So schedules being what they are, but like, the dewatering problem, nobody anticipated water in the hole. So that affects the schedule. Sometimes, like what had to happen over here, there was a hole in the ground already and discovered some issues with, what was it, stormwater?
Yeah, there was a lot of water. in
Didn't see
hole.
didn't see that coming. So-
Weather is a big, reason for a change that has to do with time. Also, I'm spacing on it. A lot of documents on it previously. Where there's something in the ground that wasn't expected.
Big rocks.
Yeah, big rocks, if there isn't any kind of geotech or if it's not obvious around, and places you can see that there are big rocks. Differing site conditions, so differing site condition would be another one. There is so much more water than would be typical of this time of year. If you look back 10 years, we have more water than we've ever had before. That would be like considered a differing site condition. So a change, they can ask for money, they can ask for time, or they can ask for both.
And that's where this group comes in, because you guys write the checks.
Or even supply chain issues.
And that's
Just
kind
like
of
a
a,
Big one.
right
In a
now.
lot of industries.
And so with the change in the purchasing policy, the only way that council will see a change order is if it is greater than $250,000 or greater than 20% of the original of the contract amount. With this project, it's only if it'll be $250,000 is 20%. So hopefully we do not have any that big. But you will receive a report on any contracts over $10,000.
They're in the packet. There's changes in the packet. Updates.
Your third ones.
I
You
did already.
Oh.
I'm your first.
See that, right, he is third. You look at him? All right, anything else?
Not related to wastewater upgrades, sewer upgrades.
All right, Leona, unfinished business.
So budget amendments, we had a public hearing at the last meeting over the budget amendments. Most of them are contracts that have been let, changes that we've already discussed. One thing that I didn't include last time and added this time was the grant that we received for the shoreline access. The grant is $72,000 in total, and you'll see the contract at the end, towards the end of the agenda. But I put $20,000 in for this year, with the remainder of it heavy lifting being next year. So that was added. But it's a net zero because it's 100% grant. So 20% revenue and 20% expenses.
Is that the watershed?
Yes, that's the
Company
watershed
contract.
company. Yeah, yep. Mhm.
All right, I would entertain a motion, unless you guys have some more questions.
I can, like motion to approve ordinance 2022-1184, amending the 2022 budget.
Second,
First and second, any other questions, discussions? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Okay. So this, so Skamania County Hazard Mitigation Plan. We've been annexed into that area, and so are now part of their plan. And I think they asked us information on it about beginning of 2021. So apologize that I never brought it back up again, but but the Skamania County Department of Emergency Management has been handling the process, working with FEMA on it. They did public outreach and everything as well. And so now it's up to us to adopt the plan. It's reviewed on a regular basis. So and as you see, we've done some things that are in the plan. We haven't done others. Again, this plan will then be wrapped into the capital improvement program as well. So there you go.
And what it does is it allows us to access federal funding if there's a declaration of emergency. That's the big deal for,
Funding tool.
Even in advance.
pardon?
Yeah, even in advance.
So
Absolutely,
Right.
for
mitigation
preparation of,
is,
yes.
Yeah, reducing the scale of the
Yep.
impact of it.
I worked with John when I was with the sheriff's office quite a bit when we first started moving this direction. And there's actually quite a bit of it's a good deal to be part of. I'm glad to see that.
There's actually a grant through DNR USDA on wildfire.
Yeah,
So,
mitigation.
yeah.
Big issue. Okay, well, let's see, let me find the right one there. Motion to approve resolution 2022-396, adopting the Skamania County Hazard Mitigation Plan as presented.
Second.
First and a second, any other discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Carolyn?
The Grayling contract.
Oh, yeah, so the 2022 water lines replacement project. Oh, I wrote something on that. Oh, no, that's just the amendment. Was a contract that we had for the design work of 3 different locations for water line improvements. They went through the design process. When they came back with their 90% budget, and it ended up being 3 times more than we had budgeted. Just pipe is more expensive, and construction in general is more expensive. So what we asked them to do, and what we will probably try to do just as like a general practice, would be to and this was much more common kind of in my previous world or previous employment, but to get more like smaller projects that are shelf projects. So design's not going to change, but it's ready and available for bid kind of whenever. So we took those 3 projects and we said, hey, will you guys split them up? And so this is the money that's required to A, split them up, and B, make them a little bit more substantial. So where we maybe stopped a water line section early, specifically on like Ryan Allen Road, there's more AC to be addressed on Ryan Allen Road. So we said, take it the rest of the way and give us these 3 projects. They're a little more isolated rather than trying to lump them all together, where it used to be more cost effective because you could save on mobilization for having multiple small projects in an area. Where now it appears like that it makes more sense to tackle more locally, because the digging is the expensive part. It's not the mobilization that's the expensive part, if that makes any sense. So just trying to kind of play the bidding game a little bit better, get more flexibility. So
Isn't that kind of the way we went with the wastewater plant? Because one of the engineers that was bidding wanted to do the full package. And Wallace said, let's split it up and then you can pay for it.
Where we bought the equipment to make it more cost effective.
And then as priority shift, we can say, oh, like you
That's
want to
good to
do, you got some money there for a road. Well, we've got the sewer here and we've got the water there. Now we have a package for this, for this space. And we don't have to wait on design for the water and the sewer to be able to take advantage of that road funding. So
I'd move to approve the 2022 water line replacement contract. Amendment number 2 in the amount of $19,500 for the full contract amount of $114,500 intended.
Second.
First and a second, any other discussion? All bears aye.
Aye.
You. Schedule changes, Leona?
So most of us will be gone for the October 20th meeting. So, I mean, Dave could do the mayor pro tem.
Yeah, but
Staff.
nobody's gonna be here.
You won't have staff support.
We're doing the meetings. I could get a lot done, I'll tell you that.
So, we'll be at the Infrastructure Assistance Coordinating Council conference. So, where we'll be maybe talking about projects, we'll see. So, anyway, so that's why we would request that that meeting be moved. The other request is definitely November 10th, that meeting being moved the day before a holiday for some, mostly staff. And then the third is, as part of our strategic plan, it talks about additional, and I think it's kind of led up to like additional workshops or training for council, and the best to do it is at a meeting. And so if we could maybe for a period of time have 2 meetings a month to where we could get that workshop in one meeting and then an actual business meeting. So yeah. So that workshop, there's AWC has an elected officials essential training where we can watch it as a group, and you can still get the certification through AWC, but we can also then discuss it as well, and ask questions and kind of see how it can play out in our city. Move forward there. So
So are you interested in doing the October council meeting like on the Tuesday prior? What do you,
yeah, if we could do it the week before, I think that would be most helpful.
Which one? What are we talking?
So the October meeting,
Moving it to.
October instead of the 20th to be the 13th?
Well,
Yes.
that's why we wanted to check.
Yeah, I'm not
If that-
available on the 13th, so.
well, it also does not have to be a Thursday.
If October meeting.
What's that?
So we just have October's meeting tomorrow
well, staff's not ready for that.
Actually, you kind of want.
What if,
There'd be nothing to do.
That's right.
what if we did it on the 18th? The Tuesday prior.
So the two, so that's, I
Oh, you guys are out of town.
Tuesday
How about the
through
11th then? Tuesday, the 11th.
I'm out of town.
Yeah, but you're new, so it don't matter. How about Wednesday?
Oh, is that the 12th, is that Wednesday? Would that work?
Might be another back-to-back meeting for us.
Yeah, it would be. I mean,
Might have to look at a small one.
yeah,
We could make it fun.
it's also not going to be as heavy as the previous one.
He's bringing pizza.
Let's.
You try to make it fun.
It's gonna be fun.
Downtown association meetings.
So what are you looking at, the 12th?
No, we didn't necessarily rule out the 27th, but for reasons of the annexation, I would like it to be before the 19th. So, yeah.
So
So much there.
Are you on the 12th?
What was good?
Well, good for you.
Sure, what are we talking about? Well,
So October 12th will
Wednesday,
be
12th.
Wednesday,
Sure.
October
That'll
12th.
be our next city council.
Yes.
Hey, Christie.
Oh, yeah, we she'll do that on her vacation. So then, yeah, so do we want to have the special meeting November 3rd? Would that?
I'm available. So if you want that.
And that's a Thursday.
One vote.
What was it, third?
Yeah.
I think I'm okay with the 3rd.
She's here.
I am not available on the third.
How about the
Oh,
2nd?
that's right. Yeah, with the second.
I am available on the second.
I am not.
Like I say, you're the new guy.
I mean, what about the first? We could also do the first.
Yeah, first.
Good on the 1st.
Tuesday.
I'm not, no, I'm fine.
You're the old guy.
No, the 1st of November is a Tuesday.
Yeah, I've been here, that's how.
So
Okay.
we're talking about another 2-hour meeting. This is for the.
This is for the
AWC.
budget. So November 1st is for the budget. And I can roll in some AWC stuff in there on the budget if they have a training on that
This
as
is a
well.
budget workshop,
The budget workshop is what,
so 2 hours.
um,
They could say pizza, maybe.
No, tequila.
and then I guess in general, first Thursdays are out for you, Scott. Okay. Easy, first and third,
Easy, but
right? What about like the first Wednesdays?
First Wednesdays are out for me.
Okay, what about the second Wednesdays?
All Wednesdays are good for me.
Downtown Association has board meetings on Wednesdays, but it's not every month. So it just
Okay.
depends on the Wednesday.
Are they like the first or second or third, or is
See
it
if I can figure
quarterly?
that out.
It just, if we can have some regularity, it just kind of helps set the calendar versus going month by month.
you get child.
Right, yeah, exactly. So what do you want to meet next?
Who do you want to hang out with?
First.
Hmm?
We moved in November 10th. to
Well, I
2nd.
guess it is.
Yes,
every
no,
month.
to November 1st. It's a Tuesday. Yeah. Mhm. Hmm?
No.
I think it's the last Wednesday. Let's see if I can verify that. Yeah, last Wednesday.
So if we do the first Wednesday and then the third Thursday, kind of spaces out the meetings, is kind of the goal, roughly every 2 weeks.
Right,
Unless you have-
aside from November.
Yes, aside from November. So this would start in
So
December.
what's your suggestion?
First Wednesday.
The first Wednesdays,
And then the third
starting in
Thursday.
December, and then the third Thursdays, which is our regular council.
And the first Wednesdays don't work.
Okay, sorry, second Wednesdays.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's what it was. You are certainly not our secretary, but a calendar invite.
No, yes, no,
goes a
I,
long way.
yes, yes. I also have to let the paper know. I have to
So
send it
much
out.
appreciated when you do that.
Yes.
So,
No kidding.
so,
So right now, we're second Wednesdays now,
yes, second Wednesday, starting in December,
okay,
and third Thursday, which is your regular council meeting.
and third Thursdays, okay.
And then October 12th instead of the 20th. In November, I will send,
And then November 1st.
and then
instead of-
November 1st instead of the
Whatever.
10th.
Okay, so you're gonna send
I'm
this all
sending
out.
all this out.
Yes,
Yeah, yeah,
good
yeah.
girl.
So, yes,
So what's the holiday?
Veterans Day. That's why I said staff gets
Would
it off.
like to take-
I have
Right.
never in my life had Veterans Day off, not once. And I'm a
Wait a
veteran.
minute, I have, did it get moved? November 10th as this budget meeting.
Right,
Send
it
out
got,
the
it
way.
moved to November 1st. Yeah, no, it's the day before holiday.
Veterans Day off.
So we're good?
Yeah. Yes.
Discussion over?
Yes, discussion over. Thank you
All
very
right,
much
so
for
are you
all
doing
that.
Chinidir or is Ben doing?
I mean, either of us can do Chinidir. I guess I put my name down on it. The Chinidir subdivision has a current deadline in their current development agreement to reach substantial completion by September, is it 23rd? 21st. And so
For phase 2.
for phase 2 and 3.
I'm sure you guys realize that that's not gonna.
Right, that's not gonna happen. I mean, we already talked about transformers, and they're, I think, beginning their grading right now. And so they are requesting a 1-year extension, to their development agreement, to reach substantial completion. Rick Levitt is also, available if you have any questions. So,
I'm
and
laughing.
Ken as well, so, yeah.
Yeah, I'm laughing because we have granted, I don't know how many extensions to the Chinnery development over the past 12 years or so. It's ridiculous.
So what were we talking about? There was one that was 20 years in the making.
Oh, so in looking at others, I saw one in Vancouver that seemed to more recently been extended, and it started, I think, in 97. So, I mean, I don't know anything about the development. I was just looking at.
I was on the planning commission when they brought this to us.
So.
No, a long time ago.
Mhm.
I would move to approve the third amendment to development agreement with Aspen Development LLC for the Shenandoah Mountain Estates subdivision as presented.
Second.
First and a second, any other discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All right, Ben. Stevenson Downtown Plan for Success.
Stevenson Downtown Plan for Success. We have been working on this with the Stewards of Success Committee. That's a group of city representatives, the Downtown Association, county planning departments, EDC, to evaluate the draft downtown plan that was put together just prior to COVID. We had gone through an effort to review all the public involvement in the draft plan and adopt it in the spring of 2020. That didn't happen, along with many other things. So the group reformed. They started looking at it and they said, you know what, this actually stands the test of time. And we could dive into this as a really fine-tooth comb effort, or we can accept it for what it is, prioritize projects from that as part of our recommendation, and recommend approval. So they did that. They recommended approval to you. Their general purpose, again, with that, my understanding was that they didn't want to do the fine-tooth dive to fix the typos that they noticed or fix the little bits of wording that they thought just didn't make sense. Keep this at a high level aspiration. And so we brought it to you as that, knowing that there's things that I wouldn't necessarily want worded in the specific way that they're worded, and just get it adopted and amended and review that over time, with that group. So that's in front of you. We got one public comment on that submitted after the deadline today.
And so Bernard and Christy Versari, the issues that they would like to bring up on page 47 of the draft vision document submitted for approval includes a commercial and multifamily subdistrict overlay table of permitted uses. This table shows that single family residences would not be permitted in the R3 district under this proposal under this proposed overlay zone. The proposed land use framework violates the R3 allowed uses of the Stevenson zoning code and the residential designations of the comprehensive plan, and conflicts with the 2022 shoreline management plan. If implemented, it would cause great harm to R3 property owners. Analysis. The west end of Cascade Avenue beyond the Port of Skamania County office is a short dead-end street zoned R3. All of the houses on that street are single-family residential homes. Per the Stevenson Code, R3 allows single as well as multifamily residences. The comprehensive plan approved by the City Council designates this small area as a residential area, not a trade area. It also allows for single and multifamily uses. On the waterfront, in compliance with the Washington State Shoreline Management Act, the recently approved 2022 Shoreline Master Plan earmarks single-family residences as a priority use on the waterfront. Multifamily dwellings are not a priority use on the waterfront under the SMP. Consequently, we find that the proposed community framework for R3 on the waterfront is disconnected from and conflicts with the other critical plans produced recently, the SMP and the comprehensive plan. Further, this proposed overlay to R3 would violate the SMC. On page 47, the text accompanying the table states, this table includes only uses identified in the trade district table, yet includes R3 as a subdistrict. SMC 17.15.030 states that areas designated as residential, HD or LD, shall not be rezoned to trade district. This proposed overlay to R3 would clearly violate the SMC. It is important to remind city councilors that several years ago, this waterfront area of downtown was zoned R3 by the Stevenson City Council with the agreement of the property owners and under the understanding with staff that single-family residences will continue to be allowed if R3 was adopted. Conclusions. For the reasons discussed above, we urge the City Council and city staff to revisit this proposal for the R3 area of Cascade Avenue. Single-family residences and all other currently permitted uses in the R3 Cascade Avenue area should be maintained. The current zoning code is consistent with the comprehensive and SMP plans in this area. The draft vision proposal is not. Plans for success should be built upon past successes. The community in this Cascade Avenue area has long been instrumental in supporting key Stevenson Catalyst development projects, the Quiet Zone, shoreline improvements, planning support, to name a few. We appreciate your consideration of these issues moving forward.
So we got that. I did a very quick edit to that plan and circulated that for you guys tonight. I had sent that out to the commenting parties to see if that addressed their concern at all around 4 o'clock today, and I didn't get a response to that as of 15 minutes ago when I checked. So don't know whether that addresses it. It's certainly every time we have a consultant involved in this, looking at this area, they look at that end of Cascade Avenue differently than the current property owners down there. Often the community, when they're considering that area, looks at it differently than the current property owners down there.
Sure.
And it's a back and forth all the time, and they're very good at providing their comments to this, and it's happening with this one too. And so just came up with this small amendment to it. That's not something that was reviewed, obviously, by the Stewards of Success Committee. I suspect that they wouldn't have any opposition to that, but we can send it back to them. There's really no timeline on this other than that committee's collective. Let's be done with this phase of.
They're ready to move.
I'd like to hear back from Bernard and see if he's satisfied with your language, because he brings up a good point. And I very clearly remember when all that happened, there's already a hotel next to the park. Night.
Well, I see in this plan, it talks about establishing a new gorge-oriented Rock Creek Drive corridor, provides a new view corridor, roadway walking and biking linkage via roadway street. Boy, that's right down through the middle of their neighborhood. So I get where he's coming from on it.
I do too. On planning commission, we looked at that. We were like, oh, what a beautiful piece of land.
Mhm.
You know, from a community public lands standpoint, it would be a wonderful park.
You're talking about Bernard's property,
Bernard's, yeah,
because there wasn't anything besides the land use. There wasn't anything to cross the tracks.
It's got an arrow going right down to the Columbia River.
This is for the view part of it.
View,
oh, yeah, that's.
Yeah.
the view corridor.
Oh,
And
okay.
so the pathway that they talk about, they sketched up on Railroad Avenue behind Walking Man, between the railroad and Walking Man, and then going across.
Oh, got it. Okay, got it. Okay.
But this plan for success, it doesn't change. It's not a zoning change
No,
at all.
Right.
And in order to change zoning, that's a whole another big matzo ball. But yeah, I would like to, just to be,
Just pull this off and send it back to him to change and see what he says back.
yeah, let's just see if there's no rush on this. So let's see what he says. If he's cool with it, great. If he doesn't reply, we'll move forward.
Stevenson Urban Commercial Core Economic Sustainability Strategies.
Exclamation mark.
Excellent. Feel like everybody should be jumping.
You are so good.
Yeah.
Do a poster.
Yeah.
I think they need.
It's a yes, it's a yes.
I thought my gift for puns was good, but doesn't even hold. All right, so we're gonna table that.
Yeah.
All right, Ben, Watershed Company, this is what we alluded to earlier, right?
So we got a $72,000 grant from the Department of Ecology to develop a comprehensive shoreline public access, integrated public access and trails plan for shoreline areas. So those are the areas that are within 200 feet of Rock Cove, Rock Creek, and the Columbia River. And we're contracting with the watershed company to do that, and to do that for us on short order. We're going to stage this as the first step into our parks plan. And so we'll develop this in the way that the state expects parks plans to be developed, and then we'll just transfer those projects over into a parks plan when that time comes. The benefits of this, which we've talked about several times, are generally that property owners that have this plan in front of them and that they buy into that plan as part of their development proposal, or if they incorporate that into their development proposal, that whole component is going to be easily approved, and there's not going to be discussions with the planning commission, discussions with the city council, like you all witnessed with development on Rock Cove. So there was no plan there, and so there was a big coming together of should it be this, should it be this? Well, then what if this is a loop? They'll all kind of be settled out because we'll have a plan, and excited about it. Excited about being a little bit more proactive, a little bit less regulatory. The other part of the proaction is it will give you all a budget so that you can start setting aside funds to improve public access in trails and shoreline areas.
So like the trail I want
Yes.
to get going up to the falls.
Yes.
So is this purely a planning,
Motion?
is this purely a planning grant or is it construction as well? I know.
But as a follow-on, RCO will have a planning grant application open up in the month of October, and that will create the plan that the state requires, and then you're eligible for RCO funding. So again, if we get this plan coupled with the parks plan, we then have avenues of funding for those projects. Right.
I would move to approve the contract with the watershed company for consulting related to the integrated shoreline public access and trails plan in the amount not to exceed $72,000 as presented.
Second.
Oh, you can have it. You can.
Okay, thank you.
Give it to the new guy.
We have a first and several seconds. Any further discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All right, you have several
Information items now, yay.
informational items in your packet for your perusal and your needs. Staff reports, Ben.
You really just kind of tapped me into planning extension on this agenda, so.
We've already talked about it.
Yeah, we've already talked about that. The planning commission is up to 5 people again. I'm very happy about that, and happy to have the guidance from the city council for strategic plan. And so we're going to set a planning commission work plan soon that'll involve shoreline, public access planning, and also start working on some of that housing issue. You'll also soon be getting a draft code change from planning and public works on parking on the streets and speed limits, loading and speed limits. So trying to work on that and implement some of these or address some of these parking challenges that we know exist, and then just better identify some of the other challenges so that you all can chew on the public can better chew on. One of the known challenges that we have is that where we have overnight prohibitions for parking on the street, the ordinance says that you can't park there from 2:30 till 5:30 a.m. The signs out in the field say you can't park there from 2 to 5. So instead of changing all those signs, we'll just change the regulation. We're proposing to just change the regulation to be 2 to 5 and have appropriate signs.
We've also had requests from people
Trying to
that
make
live
things easy.
in the area to not have those, or to have an option for a resident permit or something.
The other big parking thing that we're working on, in the sense that I'm trying to, we will be putting forward the fee in lieu program, where if you are required to, if you're building downtown and you're required to add parking, you can either add it on your site or you can pay a fee in lieu to the city to improve the parking supply at some later date. And so we're waiting on estimates from our traffic consultants for 6 representative projects of what it might look like to add to the parking supply. We'll take all those and we'll develop an average that those would equal 85 spaces. Divide the number by 85 and say that's what a parking space costs. We have no idea what that number is, so it could be that the parking space costs 50 grand. And so that if you don't want to do it on your site, then you might have to pay 50 grand times however many. So that program is unfolding and evolving, and right now we're just getting an idea for what it would cost people to move into that the next phase. So that's something that we're working on to address the parking portion of your strategic plan.
I haven't heard, I know right when the Stevenson Hotel went in and everybody was complaining like loud about parking on that little street by that post office, that old section right there. I haven't heard a lot about that in the last, since they were right at opening. I don't know if you guys are still getting a lot of negative feedback on that, but I really haven't. It hasn't been, like I was having people stop me on the street for like, people I didn't know. Oh, you're on city council. I try to park, I'm like, whoa, down. And I just haven't had that. So I don't know if that's just getting easier
If it's
or
an
what.
issue, it hasn't been an issue that's filtered up to my desk.
There were issues before it went in, but actually since it's been in, I haven't heard anything.
No, it was like
So,
right away.
yeah.
As soon as they opened,
Yeah.
people, I had mad. And I'm like, just okay, cool, let's talk about it. And then it's just everything was silent. I haven't heard anything about it. So
Well, I think again, kind of like that loading zone issue. There's nothing for the post office. I mean, people would like that, 10 to 15 minute parking only from the post office for the hotel, as well as other businesses throughout town.
Right.
So
Yeah, and if we're putting a price tag on parking places, if a particular business owns, they don't own, I'm thinking of Napa. They have a parking place that they put a do not park loading zone sign there. Kind of on the sly,
Do we have to approve that?
Was that ever officially approved? I don't-
they had a right of way permit that was in the process. I don't know if it ever went through though. I'd have to look back.
That was an issue back a few years ago. But anyway, if we put a price tag on parking spots, then they should have to pay that price, shouldn't they?
They're loading zone spots.
Yeah, I mean, it's a parking place that they put up a sign that said no parking loading zone.
Then there should be monetary amount attached to that.
You all have the authority to put up loading zone parking restrictions. No one else does, and it's a violation of the state's laws to put that up instead of.
What else, man?
Anders has been doing really good work to filter nuisance complaint code enforcement issues out and get letters out. So that had been something that was uncoordinated and just one department head or another would pick up nuisance enforcement over time. We've got that assigned to a staff member. It seems to be effective.
He's also done a really good job with kind of being a point person for complex permits. So kind of wrangling all the pieces together as well.
So what kind of I hate the word hammers.
Tools.
How many, tools do we have to enforce those violations?
We send out a notice initially saying, we really would like you to correct this voluntarily. Will you give us a schedule for? And that gets the attention of me.
And falls on deaf ears of some.
If it falls on deaf ears, then we would go to the next phase where we are taking the matter to municipal court, which is the Superior Court judge at this point. So we are documenting what the nuisance is, documenting all our attempts and why they failed, and getting the court's approval to go in as the city and abate that nuisance. Leave the property owner for.
Things loud.
What? That's why I couldn't hear what you were saying.
Well, you know which one I'm talking about, so. Yeah. Okay, thank you.
Anything else? Good. Carolyn?
Water, Catholic Church Reservoir was cleaned and inspected, earlier this week. Some repairs would be recommended from that cleaning and inspection. Similarly, Rock Creek Inlet, that wasn't drawing as much water, as it did historically. It was also inspected. Further investigation and cleaning is going to be recommended for that one as well. So older infrastructure, just maintenance. Wastewater, we talked about construction projects. We also talked a little bit about capital improvement plan and sewer plans and all that stuff. But one of the things that we've been talking about internally is working on a plan to kind of fill in the sewer line deficits. So it's helpful to know like that homeowners are where they're interested in having their sewer lines, having sewer lines extended to. But I would like to have, doesn't matter how far out it's looking, where are these going? Because when we get short plats or subdivisions or annexes, like annexation requests, we don't really have anything yet that says this is coming to you at this, in this time frame. Also in the wastewater world, we're prepping for some pump replacements, in addition to the capacity upgrades that the water treatment plant or the wastewater treatment plant. Stormwater, we heard from Mr. Woods. There are a few different areas where we're evaluating maintenance and improvement projects in advance of the rainy weather. So stormwater is something that we do talk about regularly in the Public Works Department. Most specifically, the difference between, and this comes up with building as well, our stormwater engineering standards say, if you produce it, you keep it on site. Don't pump it out to the city right away. And similarly, if it's stormwater runoff is produced by the city right away, we will collect it, we will treat it, we will not run it onto your property. So if a deeper dive into the Monda Road stormwater issue, I don't know the way to approach that, but if there's something you guys would like me to do with that, besides just try to kind of partner, I do not see that as that's not city right away generated stormwater. So typically that wouldn't be something that would be a requirement of Public Works Department.
That's coming on to the city right away.
It's not.
It's not coming on the
He
city
wants
right
to
away,
divert
though.
it to the city right away.
Yeah, I don't know.
believe that.
Yeah.
And I don't know
It's
how
on
we would,
now.
I don't know how we would plan to do that.
No, I'm just saying that, but
Yeah. So it seemed like that was something that was, there was a lot of interest in city council for us to do something about that. So, yeah,
But now you're telling us that there's more to that story.
yeah, I mean, so maybe we can talk about like what I need to do to follow up on that. But yeah, I have met with one saying I'm aware of the issue. Streets, First Street is now ours. Yay. So WashDOT turned it back. We accepted it. And hooray for us. Crosswalk parking T paintings are kind of still going on. Ben talked a little bit about the parking loading and speed limit review that we're doing for the ordinance. We do plan to route that to Sheriff County and WashDOT before sending it to this group, just to make sure we have all of our bases covered. It's funny because it's like when we start talking about something, it pours. So now everyone wants their streets like speed limit sign distance reviewed. And I'm like, this feels like it's so timely with this. And I don't know how that happens, but put it out in the universe, I guess. Equipment, the mower, our tractor mower was surplus. So it's no longer part of our rolling stock. And we had a good conversation with the vac truck supply folks. We're going to demo one next month. So I know that was something that was approved here. And as we've discussed more, we've kind of honed in on what our true needs are, because there's a lot of flavor of, vac trucks. So
Tell them about that attachment.
Yeah, so it's kind of nifty. And so one of the things that kind of held us off was the standard issue combo vac jetter truck has the ability to jet lines like your main lines, but it doesn't have the ability to, because the hose is so large, it doesn't have the ability to jet like small laterals, so like your 4-inch and your 6-inch laterals. And we frequently have to hire people to come out, to, hire plumbing companies to come out and jet people's laterals, or, jet from the clean out through to ours to try to figure out, is it a tree? Is it a clog that's caused by, upstream? Like, where is this coming from? So that function is typically performed by a smaller hose on like a trailer. So they call them jetter trailers, and that's what all the plumbing companies use. And so we were kind of back and forth, like, well, do we buy the jetter trailer and the vac truck separately? And then how does that work? But turns out they have an attachment that you can put on your vac truck. It's like a jetter, like a jetter attachment. So we can get it all in one operation, one piece of equipment. So we are excited to have, excited to have waited and, really done the research to get exactly what we need. Yeah, parks was my last thing. We have our engineering on-call services contracts that are in the process. And so in alignment with what we discussed previously about parks plan, we do have someone on that list that we've kind of identified as being able to take the lead on developing that. So that's all good news in the parks world. That's all my things.
Yeah.
So those will be on the agenda next month for your review and approval. This will be 3-year contracts, and staff will do basically task orders for each one. And the next item. So on the topic of the houseless problem that we've been having, there's the Mid-Columbia Houseless Collaborative that has been meeting for this past year to develop a strategic plan. And it's in essence kind of the 5 counties. So Wasco, Hood River, Sherman, and then Klickitat and Skamania counties, and working on a plan to help make a dent on attainable and affordable housing and addressing the houseless issue, as well as services that are provided to houseless individuals, and seeing what can be done. The goal, though, of that strategic plan was so that it's not all, it's not adding new work, but it's kind of highlighting what's already been done and then enhancing what's already being done as well. So can we do it better? So that strategic plan was basically approved yesterday, the day before. And so with that, they'll be doing, in essence, a roadshow. And so that will be coming. Part of it also is to educate the public as far as what is being done, because of course progress is hard to see. So what is being done, as well as what is the issue, and how does it impact people? So I feel like we're wrapping up a lot of projects as well. So the CIP is a big, huge one, started in 2019, downtown plan 2019. So again, we're closing out some big things. And so it feels really good.
That's your staff, everybody.
Right? Yeah.
It's time to do new big projects.
Well, so, no. Right, I know.
Ready to go projects that we have on the shelf ready to pull down. We've got a few.
Yeah.
Well, our
Right.
20-year contract is coming on to what, 12, 13 years old now?
As amended through April 2020, and it has to be amended through October 2020.
So we've also been talking about the strategic plan. And so you'll get your first quarterly update. I'd have to check the account. But we've been working on the individual tasks underneath that. And one of them was on the financial health of the city. And so that involves a rate study. And I'm unable to do it in-house, just because there's so many other things. So I did reach out to 4 consultants, received responses and quotes back from 2. And I will probably be supplying you with a contract for FCS, or you might see it in your, oh, it does cross budget years, so you may see it. To do the rate study, it'll be $57,000 and take 6 to 9 months. And this isn't just updating the rates, because I will do that as part of our budget. This is a complete restructuring of our rates to look at house sizes for system development charges, to look at alternative ways to do billing. If we need to bill mixed use differently than it's currently being billed, than just flat commercial use. So it's, again, stripping the base from the waters. Yeah, stripping the base water usage from the water rate, so that if people, and
On
also,
vacation or something.
well, but yeah, and
Yeah.
so we're getting rid of the snowbird
Yeah.
option. So they will have to pay base fees, but there's no water included. But that means everyone's paying water usage. And so there will be a transition with people kind of trying to recognize that. So, but again, they've done a lot of studies, a lot of cities our size. And so that's sort of, it feels like a good fit. And then also looking to start using some Laserfish to put documents on a public facing portal to potentially reduce records requests. People can search those documents themselves.
Let me give you a portal,
But yeah.
search whatever you.
Right. So there's going to be sort of a transition where we're taking our old records and putting them on there. That's not part of this yet, but it's a step in the right direction. So, and then, yeah, just dealing with some annexation requests. One thing also, with transitioning to the county for building inspector services, we failed to include fire marshal services as part of that. So we're working on a contract amendment to include fire marshal services to make sure that that's covered, as well as working on an annexation flyer and then resident notifications on the annexation. So deadline driven, the council meeting was before the end of the month. And then at some point in time, you'll get the 2023 budget. But
5 years ago, there was a standing room only meeting here.
Oh, yeah.
And one of the people there was a woman, Liana, standing in the back watching the wastewater moratorium issues and everything together. So the next month, which is a couple days from now, she was your city administrator.
5 years.
Wow.
oh yeah, I knew what I was getting into.
I
Yeah.
was showing up for those meetings too.
Yeah.
Wait a minute, I was the king of puns today. No shit show around on a wastewater pump. 5 years.
So birthday, 5-year birthday or 5-year.
Yeah.
Before you get off the stand, I do think that you should be recognized for that. Yeah, 5 years in the city as well as however many years alive. 25 years alive.
right, yeah,
But you've been truly living.
Thank you guys. I was gonna say smoke alarm. Please we get fire.
And I've been in trouble for the last 5 years, sending Liana from White Salmon to Stevenson. So it's my 5-year anniversary of being in trouble.
Right. Yeah.
I didn't think so much more on
I think-
leave, so you can probably have
Right.
2.
Oh. We'll ship your cupcake in the mail, Ken.
Yeah, we will.
Sounds good. It'll be a little stale, but that's all right.
Right, yeah.
A little smooshed. Anything else?
Aren't you glad you stuck around?
Oh.
No, that was it.
I would entertain a motion to approve the vouchers.
Motion to approve the vouchers as presented.
Second. Ooh, yeah.
Well,
All right, first and a second, any discussion?
Hmm.
All in favor, say aye.
I,
All right. Do any of you have anything for the greater good?
Yes. A good citizen approached me the other day and complained about the lack of paint on the speed bump near the lodge. Said he bent his trailer hitch going over it.
You should have been doing the speed limit.
Good point, but
When did that
How
happen?
fast is it going?
Address that this week.
it was this week.
Was it?
Yeah.
I'll follow up.
Another thing is, and I know about this because I live there, on School Street, where they put in the new gas line there. Last May or so? Well, they left two big piles of gravel right next to the road, which are now engulfed in blackberries. I feel like whoever that construction organization was, they should do something with those piles of gravel.
I was like, I'll take one of those piles of gravel. Which one will tell me get over there, right? 'Cause that-
You gotta load it yourself.
I'll bring my tractor.
you think I'm kidding? I'm not, because so I don't own the first.
It'll only take me 10 minutes to drive there.
I don't own the first 4 feet of my driveway. It's city, and so the.
Most jerks won't do anything.
And, but it's starting to like, they put gravel in there at some point, but it's starting to get a pretty serious dip now. And, so I need to add a little bit of gravel on the top, so I could use one pile.
You can certainly spread one pile out there where the mailboxes are.
Yeah.
Hey, Ben, on the CIP.
I got no shame.
Comprehensive plan, anyway, it has acknowledgements in the city council. Can we get that changed?
We can.
Okay, take Christie off and put Dave on there. Or not Christie, take Annie off and put
Yes.
Dave on there. And then add in your new member of the planning commission. But other than that, it looks awesome, buddy.
Not as good as the man bun.
Yeah, there you have it. He gets that when he's sitting on that electric bicycle.
Yeah, I know, right?
Anybody else? The greater good? So, we're gonna have our meeting before, but at some point we'll be able to report back what great things we accomplished in Wenatchee.
There you go. And we know you guys will behave up there and present us well.
I love that town. I've only been there but one time and I can't stop talking about that town. I'm so excited to go back.
Yeah, I went once too.
Yeah, I went once too.
Oh, so real quick, went on a quick trip with Liberty up to Seattle, spent the night in Centralia. It's actually the only stop that there's anything to do on the train that doesn't spit you out in the middle of nowhere or a rail yard. But some interesting things in a small city, as a city nerd, you go, ooh, I'm gonna take a picture, They do have several little side streets that have brick instead of asphalt, so they have brick roads, I would call them cobblestone. But an older town that has 2-story buildings that are on the sidewalk completely changes the flavor of the town. Absolutely.
Did what, sorry?
It changes the flavor of the town. When you have something tall, it makes it very intimate because everything was right on the sidewalk. You don't have these setbacks. So,
Versus a Walmart with a giant parking lot.
so it was really interesting to notice how it changes the flavor of the town. And they do have one of the side streets that they identified. I guess it's just a temporary thing for the season, but completely blocked off a road. So imagine blocking off Seymour. Like the stop, so you can still see the stop sign hidden amongst all of the bushes, and they had tables and decorative lights going all over. It made it it was between 2 buildings that were high. So some really cool things at that little tiny town. It's about our size, I guess, maybe a little bigger, but it was cool to see other little towns and what they do to make it nice. This is the part where you suggest something for staff to add to the agenda next month.
I don't know that it needs to be, I don't know about adding it to the agenda, but I might have missed, Carolyn, where we talked, remember I called you and asked about like the street thing, and then you sent me the guidelines, and we were talking about how we have engineers already contracted to?
That's what we.
They'll come in October meeting.
Okay, then I'll leave that alone. There you go.
It's already on the agenda, apparently.
Boom.
Bam.
And there's something that I don't know if it should be, when it should happen, but I think we need to have a discussion. Currently, outbuildings, a shed, garden shed requires a 5-foot setback from your property line. Another option, so if the sheet of paper is your property and this is your shed, instead of it having setback here, another option would be to put it right up against the property line and use it. That wall is basically a fence. So, so instead of having 5 feet of essentially wasted property here, maybe where you store your junk, about it, but you would have your building right up against the fence line. Most, as far as I know, most cities that allow that require that to be a firewall. So I think that's the discussion maybe we should have to accommodate.
Still scarred from the last time we talked about
Interesting.
setbacks.
The property that I own, actually on 2 sides, that's the case. On my backyard, my neighbor, his fence,
Mhm.
for half of it is a building. And then the shed that was there before I got there, obviously, is half of the fence in my yard. My
Yeah.
shed is half fence of my neighbor.
That's the way everyone did it before there were. any
Just
codes.
they both been for a long time,
Yeah.
but that's
Uh,
2 sides.
No, and so I think it's a better use of somebody's yard, especially if we're trying to get infill with smaller and smaller yards. Better use. Should we require firewall? I mean, if we go that route, should we also require a firewall on the border? That's a discussion I would like to have. I don't know if it's.
Does it start here?
Would you want the planning
Planning
commission to have
commission
that?
would be,
Good question, Dan. Is that?
The statutory requirement is that a zoning change like this is the planning commission reviews and reports. And so a proposal can be fully baked at the city council level and sent to the planning commission, and they can review and report on it. You can say report accepted, we're gonna do what we thought about before anyway. That's the way it happens in some communities. What we typically do here is that you throw it into the weeds and say, go find it.
Do you have time for that?
is this an idea that you would even, I mean, from your position, is this something
I
you would
think
even
that would get a lot
entertain?
of traction. There's 8 residents in here and 2 of them are saying, boy, I got that problem. So.
Well, and all of the stuff that happened up
Right, up there.
there.
You used to until a tree fell on it.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Talk about putting this in all zones.
I don't know.
Well, this is to open the discussion for.
But you just threw the ball into the weeds, didn't you?
Right, just right.
If I was looking at your strategic plan, I would say, hey, you got time for that.
Right, that's fair. It's not in the strategic plan. So, yeah.
But the planning commission doesn't have to. Same, or just city
Just in
council.
general.
It is something when the planning commission went through the last shed thing, it came to their attention too, that, oh, you could just roll a shipping container on and the city's gonna consider that a shed? I said, yeah. So there were some residents in that neighborhood that said, we would like some tighter design requirements on that sort of. And so
The design requirements is part of the strategic plan. Yes. So yeah.
Could that be squeaked into that?
So,
You have a
Right,
shed,
having the
200
firewalls,
That's what I'm.
requirement.
Yeah.
Yep. Fully supportable.
right?
Mr.
So-
Councilmember, sir.
Can be in conjunction with that. I guess the question is timeline, because there isn't necessarily, our engineering standards are a priority right now.
Absolutely, it's a low.
So that's what we'll be working on. But as we go through, you can make a note, like, we'll look at this and address it when it comes up. So,
Property line issues are the other concern I have, thinking about the effects of that, so associating that with the survey. For preventing spread of fire. We're preventing- Sure.
Anybody else? 31.